There's coming a day when we won't be able to kneel and pray. There's coming a day, just like in the day of Noah, when those church doors will be shut, never to be reopened again. But today, we have an opportunity. If you can look back as far as those hills can see, we're in what's called some of the Kentucky hills. That's where I'm from here in Grayson County. We don't have the mountains part of it, but we have some of the hills, and they call it the Kentucky hills. And there's a lot of hills where I'm from. Now, you go deeper down in the east, you'll, of course, go to the Cumberland Mountains. And then in some parts, I believe the Rockies are even there. I know the Rockies is in Tennessee, and I know that kind of borders somewhat, because I've been down through the Rockies and the Appalachians as well. But anyways, I'm here to tell you today that today is the day. I remember when I first started preaching, my mom come up to me, and when I first told her, Mama, I'm going to start preaching, and she said, got a question, Billy boy. You ain't gonna be one of them hellfire and brimstone preachers, are you? And I said, most certainly. You've got to preach heaven, you've got to preach hell. You've got to tell them that there's a heaven to gain and a hell to shine. And you've got to preach the truth. Can't sugarcoat nothing. But you've got to preach the truth today. Because today is the day of salvation. I can't make none of you give your heart to the Lord tonight. After this broadcast, and what you can clearly see is a car wash. First time for everything. I preached a lot of places, but I've never preached at a car wash. I preached at jobs that I've done when I couldn't get home in time to do them, but I never preached at a car wash. I was even invited to a Catholic church to get up and minister. Something for non-denominational, holiness, Pentecostal, Apostolic, etc., Church of God, Assembly of God, or any other kind of church. That's something that a lot of people don't get an invite to do. It was my grandma's funeral, and I think I did my grandpa's too. It was their funeral, and the priest that was doing it was in the Catholic Church, asked me to get up and say a few words and minister as well. So I actually preached both my grandparents' funerals. It wasn't an easy thing to do. But that was then. This is now. Today, no matter what I've done then, one of my greatest testimonies ever, and if you ever listen to it, is the caller on my Open Doors broadcast. And it's one of the greatest testimonies I've ever had, because it's something, it wasn't about me, it was about somebody else. And God gave me something about somebody, and I obeyed God and read it over the broadcast. And that's the very same broadcast, almost 12 years ago, they called in. And of course that broadcast was a whole lot later. But I wanted to share, when I started doing blog talk radios, I wanted to share that testimony with my online listeners as well. But that was originally done about 12 to 15 years ago. And yesterday, Friday, well, technically, I guess you could say today's Sunday since it's 2 o'clock. But Friday, the 17th, I was preaching for 16 years. So I preached 16 years ago that day. And I've seen a lot of great, marvelous things in my time. But there was a time in my life that I wasn't obeying God. There was a time in my life, for 2 years, I even sat down in my ministry, because I went through a divorce. And sometimes divorce is the most devastating thing that you would ever go through in life. But God says, I'm not done with you. I thought God was done with me, but God kept saying He wasn't done with me. He still had more for me to do. And since I started preaching, again, a couple years ago, I've seen a lot more great, marvelous things happen. But that was yesterday. There's more days to come. But what I'm going to tell you is, regardless of how many times I spoke in tongues, regardless of how many times I shouted, regardless of how many times I interpreted what somebody was saying, regardless of the amount of times that God give me words of wisdom or knowledge or understanding about someone else, or gifts of healing, or any of the other spiritual gifts, or any of the other things God's done for me, no matter how much I worked in any of those things, no matter how many times I preached, and I couldn't count to you my messages that I preached in 16 years. I've been in several different churches and I've preached. God's opened the door in many places, but I'd like for Him to open up even more doors. So if you're a church and would like me to come preach at your church, get a hold of me on Facebook /Pastor Billy Higdon or Prayer Line CWD on Facebook and message me. I'd love to contact you. Or if you also would love us singing with it, I just joined the Joyful Heirs, and my first visitation is going to be in West Virginia. It's coming week.